Hi everyone. Just wait till people come. We're making this square shortly. Just turn the camera around. Oops, hang on. Trying to see my kitchen. Hello. Hello. I'll just do a little bit straight talking to you before we get started. Just let a few people join. So I've seen lots and lots of Pams popping up around on Instagram and Facebook and in Ravelry. They're looking really cool. So I like some of the coloured ones and some of the single colour ones. They're looking great. Everyone seems to be doing well. We've had a few questions about the corners, especially for new people. So I'll particularly pay attention to that when I'm showing you what I'm doing. I'll have a tea again. I nearly lost my voice last time, so hopefully I'll be able to keep going through the whole thing. So we might as well just get started because I know we're not very friendly around the world. A lot of people, it's middle of the night, 3 AM and things like that. So I'll get my face off the camera and down here. Oops. Okay, so we're going to be making Pam, and I've got a few. You don't have to watch me make every single stitch. I've got a few in the process. Hello. How are you? So all the squares start as a basic granny square. So it's a bit of a grey day here, so I'm just trying to make sure you can see everything. Okay, so starting out, sorry, I was practicing before. Just like you would for a granny square. So I'm going to start with a magic circle, as I always do. Now bear with me because working through the camera is a little tricky at times and it might go in and out of focus a little bit. Now sometimes I do say in the pattern chain 3, which is normal, just take the place of your first stitch, and I'll do that in this instance, but usually I actually do a false treble UK terms or false double in US terms. It just makes it look a little bit more seamless, but when you're first beginning, chain 3 is absolutely fine. So I will just mention I am on wireless internet, and it's a very humid day, and humidity sometimes messes with my wireless for some reason. So if I drop out, I'll just start again. So I apologise for that now if it happens, but hopefully it will be all good. So the first round of Pam is just like a normal granny square. So 4 groups of 3 stitches with 2 chains separating each of them. Okay, sorry, it is very dark today. I'm trying to get the light the best I can. Now, you don't have to start with a magic circle. You can start with chain 3 or 4 and then join that into a loop and work into that circle, or just chain 4 and then work all your stitches into the first chain. That's fine. It doesn't matter how you start. 1, 2, 3. So I've got one more group of 3 to go. Sorry if I run out of things to say. I'm concentrating. But feel free to ask me any questions if you have any. Okay. Now we're going to get to our first bit that people struggle with. So I'm going to tighten my magic circle. Okay, so I have done 3 stitches, 2 chain, 3 stitches, 2 chain, 3 stitches, 2 chain, 3 stitches. So normally, just looking at you would do 2 chain and join with a slip stitch. But to make everything a bit more seamless, I like to finish in the middle of that 2 chain space. So instead, I'll try and get really close, I'll chain 1, and instead of joining with a slip stitch, I'm going to join with a double crochet UK terms or a single crochet US terms. Sorry, this is really tricky through the camera. So I pull a loop through to the front, then yarn over and pull through those 2 stitches. Right. So now you can see if I'll pop it down and move the camera. I'm in the middle of what would be a 2 chain space. I'm in the middle there. So I don't have to work back into focus. I don't have to work backwards or on an angle to make my stitches into that corner when I start my next round, I'm in the right spot to start my next round. When I say do a stitch over the joining stitch, all you're doing is working into that space there. You're pretending that joining stitch is a chain space, and you're just working over that, just like you would a normal chain space. So before we go further, I just want to explain my patterns. It is nifty. I think it works really well. So this is a UK chains pattern. Now all of my patterns are pretty much written the same. You'll have the beginning of the round, which is usually the first part of the corner. And then you've got the asterisks. Now the asterisks, cool, have fun. So single asterisk, everything between the single asterisk, so there's one there and one there, is one side plus one corner. And the things between one asterisk and two asterisks is just the side. So how my patterns work is you do your beginning, your first part of your corner, you do a side and a corner, then you repeat the side and the corner twice more, and then you just repeat the side. That's what it says, repeat from something twice into that once. So you end up, you've just done a side, and then you finish off your first corner that you started by doing a stitch in the same place you did your first stitch, and then you chain one and join with a stitch again. So it's just all the patterns in Fran are the same. Some of my other more complex patterns will be a bit different, but generally that's how my patterns are written. You'll always know that between the single asterisk and the double means it's just a side. Single to single is a side and a corner. So that's that. All right, so our next one is we are doing, thank you for those beautiful hearts, purple ones. People ask me before, how do you do hearts? You just tap the screen. There you go. So my next round is I have to do a stitch over the joining stitch, and then I'm using UK patterns, so double crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then the corners are DC chain 2 DC. If it's US, all those DCs are just SCs. Easy. Right, so let's get on with it. Okay, hopefully you'll be able to see. Okay. So I recommend using a stitch marker. If you're getting lost with the corners, just pop a scrap of yarn through that corner space that you just made. And that gives you clues. It shows you where to put your hook. So the first stitch is worked in the same place as where that stitch marker is. So I'm just doing one there. Now I'm going to do a stitch in each of these stitches across. 1. Sorry, it's really fiddly. 2, 3. And now I'm up to the corner, so it's 1 stitch. Oops. This particular yarn here is King Cole Cotton Soft. It's supposed to be DK, but I find it a little bit thicker than the normal 8-ply DK things that I use, but it's fine. Yeah, it's nice and soft, very fluffy. It's not mercerized, it's not machined. Sorry, I'm going in and out of focus a bit unaware. I'm trying to keep it in, but moving makes it difficult. Sorry, I think I might have. All right, one more to go. So when you're first beginning, a good idea is to check your stitch counts as you go. Make sure that you're on track. You don't have to count every stitch on every side, but just, every now and then give a few counts of a side. Because my stitch counts, I always tell you how many stitches are along the side and what's in the corners. 1, 2, 3. Oops. Move back a little bit. Next corner. So now I've done the repeat between blah and blah twice, and now I have to repeat between the single asterisk and the double, so that's just a DC in the next 3 stitches. SC for US. 1, 2, 3. And now I am back at my first corner. So where the stitch marker is where I do my last stitch. Then I chain 1 and join to that first one with a double crochet or a single crochet if you're the US. So again, you're in the middle of that corner. And when you're first starting out, especially with this next round, I think it will really help if you pop that stitch marker in. Okay, So the next round is a treble round if you're UK, or a double crochet round if you're US. And the corners are 2 treble, 2 chain, 2 treble in each of the 2 chain spaces. So we start out by, normally you can do 3 chain, or I'm going to do the false treble stitch, so I like that better. And now it says to do, let's pretend that's 3 chain as in the pattern, then it says treble or double crochet over joining stitch. So that's the joining stitch there. Where your stitch marker is in a hole. Oops. That is where you are putting your hook. So that's the half of that corner done. So now we're on to the sides, and it says to do a stitch into every stitch along the side. Yeah, I'll show that on the next round. Yeah, I have got a YouTube video showing it clearly and as well. A YouTube video showing that. No worries. But I will do it again because I think it just makes everything look so much better. So I'm into the corner, so I'm doing 2 stitches. It's 1, 2, 2 chain, and 2 stitches. It sure does. It just hides everything so much better. 1, 2, oops. 3, 4. Another tip I always give to my beginners too is if you ever feel like you're lost and you're not sure what you're up to, you can just, what I recommend you do is just put it down, stretch it out and have a little look. Okay, that's where I started. I've done that side, done the corner, I've done that side. Okay, so I'm up to that corner again. It just helps just to put it down and just stop and have a good close look at what you're up to. Have a bit of a stretch out. Okay, I'll keep going now. Oops. I'll find that light again. Okay, so I've already done 1 stitch for the corner. Now I'm doing the second. 2 chain. Have many of you made Pam already, or have you just popping by because you've never seen me before, have no idea what I'm talking about? There's a lady who's done a chart for Pam that I will share around the place a little bit later. She's popped it on Instagram under the Fran Mystery Cal tag if you want to have a look for it. Okay, I'm back to here again. 6th one, cool. They don't take long, do they, once you get in the swing? Okay, well, I'm getting to the 4th round. This is the 3rd round, the 4th round is next. Okay, I'm to my last side. Fair enough. There's so many things to work on, aren't there? I think there just seems to be an explosion of crochet alongs too, cows at the moment. Everywhere, everyone seems to be doing them, which is great because they're heaps of fun. Okay, so I've done my last side. Now I'm back to the first corner again. It says to do 2 stitches in the same space as you did your first stitches, which is where this little stitch marker is. So all you do is pop your hook back in there. Cool. I actually learned to crochet via one, so I think they're great. It's great being put into small, easily managed steps. Okay, so now I'm up to the join again, which is a chain 1, and with a false stitch. If you look closely, there's a V at the top, just like in the other stitches. So I tend to just put my hook through, much better in my YouTube video, much clearer. Pull it through and then yarn over through 2. And then move that little stitch marker again. And we are on to the spike stitch round. So What it says to do is to do a stitch over the join. So again, where that stitch marker is, pop your hook in. There you go, there's your first stitch. Then it says to do a double crochet or single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So let's go, there's 1, 2, 3. I hope everyone can hear me okay. Last time some people said they couldn't hear. 4. Okay, now we're up to our first spike stitch. It says to do a spike stitch into the round 2 stitch below this one. So this is the stitch we're going at the base of this stitch is where we're going to do our spike stitch, and this is the stitch we're going to do our first stitch after our spike stitch. So be aware of where you're going to go next. We're going to finish with as we started this side, there was stitches in 4 stitches, so we're going to finish with stitches in 4 stitches. So let's do our spike stitch. So we're going right in to the base of that next stitch, pulling up a long loop, like long. Even that looks way too long, but it needs to be, otherwise it gets pulled down. So there we go, there's our first spike stitch. Now we've got to do spike stitch in the next 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we do our corner, which is 1 stitch, 2 chain, 1 stitch. 1, 2. I'll do one more row of this and then I'll show you something else. So we've got it's easy to do that, but once you get it, you're like, oh, righto, that's easy. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now a spike stitch is going in the base of this stitch and the one after is going there. So just keep an eye on that while you're doing this. Pull up a long loop. If you don't pull up a long loop, that's what happens. It gets all sucked down. It distorts everything. Now I'm going to have to undo that and do it again. Okay. Long loop. Okay, and in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. What I'm going to do now, so you don't have to sit there watching me do the same thing over and over, I've pre-made some to certain points. So this is the same, we're at the same round, but I've done all of the sides. We're just back to the start again. So, oops, now I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, so I do 1 stitch in the same place as our first stitch, which is here. It's easy to see because I've got a different colour. And then chain 1 and join to the first stitch, which is having trouble seeing. Okay. Now if you would do that if you were continuing with the same colour. Okay. If you were changing to a new colour, you would do just like your other corners, like how you would normally end. You would do chain 2 and you would join with a slip stitch to this first one. Because then you're not in the middle of the corner, you don't have an end in the middle of the corner, you have an end. Like here I nearly pointed at the screen then. Yeah, it just makes everything a bit more seamless and you'd attach your new colour to a different corner to where you ended off. So that's that round done. The next round is the skipping stitches round, which I will actually end this colour off and join with the green again so you can see what I'm doing. That's 1 chain, 2 chain, join with a slip stitch this time. Done. Okay. So I have to cut that yarn. Actually no, I'll use this one instead. No, I won't. I will use the green. Sorry, indecisive. Okay, so when you're starting a new colour, you've got a couple of ways you can do it. You can do, it depends how you're going. This is how I usually do it. I just put my hook in the corner, bring some yarn to the front and just do a slip stitch. Whoops, if I can make it work. and then do my false treble stitch, which I'll show you again. So you pull up a loop and put your finger on it really tight. Don't let that go. Then you wrap that loop around. Oh, I'll keep going in out of focus, sorry. Hold still for a second. There we go. Yarn over and pull under. That's still holding on to that first loop. Pull it down a bit, yarn over, then you let go and pull through both of those loops, and that's a false treble stitch. Okay. Now this round 5, is the skipping round. And what you have to do is you do 1 stitch, 1 chain, and you skip one of those stitches and do the next stitch into the next space. So I've done the first part. My pleasure. So we do 1 chain, then we skip that stitch and we do a stitch into the next one. Oops. Then we chain 1 and do skip 1 stitch, stitch into the next one. Now you'll know you're on track for this round because when you get to the middle, oops, sorry, too many little balls. You will be working, you skip 1 stitch, you work into that spike stitch. So that's how you know you're staying on track. Chain 1, skip 1, stitch in the next. Chain 1, skip 1, stitch in the next. And you'll also know you're on track because when you get to the end, you've got to do a chain 1, skip 1, and you're in the corner where we do 1 stitch. Oops. Sorry, I've got lots of ends and things hanging off. 1 stitch, 3 chain for this round. And, oops. And then we go again. Chain 1, skip 1, treble or DC, depending what terms you're using. Sorry, I'm trying to do this fast because I know once you've got the idea of what I'm doing, I know it's probably pretty boring just to keep watching me do the same thing over and over again, but I need to show you the next round as well. So I'll get this one done as quick as I can. Ugh, those pesky ends. Out of the way. It is really dark today after a beautiful sunny day last week. What else did I want to talk about? Probably about it. I hope so. I'm running out of things to talk about. So ask me questions. What do you want to know? It doesn't have to be about this. There we go. Chain 1. I'm still in the right spot. I'm in that spike. I taught myself. I can't remember how many years ago. It's probably about 4 years ago or so. Just there was a crochet along. That's good. I'm glad it's made sense. Yeah, Spotlight Stores ran a crochet along project. It was supposed to be learning as you go. And once a week they released a new pattern. And I started out by, it was all written in UK terms, but I YouTubed US terms, so none of my blocks have actually looked anything like what they were meant to. But lots of people do that. Yeah, and since I did that, I have run a couple of CALs myself using other people's patterns, and during that process I started designing myself. And I found it just was something that came pretty naturally to me and I love doing it, so that's how that was. Okay, at the end of this round it's a little bit different because the corners are, oh absolutely. Oh, you've got the app, cool. How do you like it? Sorry, I'll let you type. So the other corners are 3 chain. So this time instead of 1 chain and join with a DC or SC, we're going to do 1 chain and we're going to join with a half treble UK or a half double crochet US. Oops. So you yarn over first before you insert your hook into the top of that false stitch. then yarn over, pull through the front, yarn over, pull through all three. I'm going to plonk it down and hopefully you'll be able to see that you're in the middle. You're in the middle of that 3 chain space, as if you're going 1.5 chain. So we're in the perfect spot to start our next round, which is 2 stitches over the joining stitch. Just like before, it's just we're doing 2 stitches over it. Oh, that's great. Thank you. I'm glad it's helpful. It was interesting to put together because I'm really not a techie person. Okay, cool. Okay, so I just did 1 stitch over the joining stitch. Now I'm doing another stitch over the joining stitch. And the rest of this round is just, oh, yeah, that's so cool too, isn't it? I do it all the time. As long as you weave in the end properly. Okay, the rest of this round is just a stitch in each stitch and a stitch in each 1 chain space. Now those 2 rounds are common to every single block in the Fran Cal. Generally, in the really big block, there's one time when we don't do this round after that one, but every other time when we do the skipping round, you'll do this single crochet or double crochet round afterwards. So I'll just get to this side done. I'll get to show you a corner and then I'll move on to, I'll skip ahead. Or should I show you the end of this round again? I probably should show you the end of this round. It won't take too long. I'm going for time. Gosh, it's been half an hour already, so I'm just going to have a mouthful of tea. Start of chain. Sorry, I missed that. Can you type that comment again? I didn't quite understand the start of which round. Okay, so I'm just doing 1 stitch, whoops, in each stitch and each chain. Oh, there's pesky ends again. Chopped it off. Getting there. Yes, you can. Yes. It'll be live on Periscope for 24 hours, but I've also set up a Catch Me account, which is katch.me, and I think it's /spin cushions, and my videos should be automatically uploaded into the cloud there and be available. So I've reached the corner and I need to do 2 stitches, 2 chain, 2 stitches. That's 1 stitch, 2 chain. Yeah, that's it. Catch.me, yeah. And I'm pretty sure I just /spin cushions. I know the Periscope I did of explaining Fran is there. You can have a look at it. Thank you. All right, on to the 3rd side. Not too long to go now. I haven't got all that much more to show you. Most of the rest is, I just want to show you after this. Oh, looks like I missed it. I missed doing it. Okay, even I make mistakes, okay, talking. I missed doing a chain stitch here, but I am not going to rip it out and do it again. I'm just going to do a chain stitch in the gap. Oh, okay. Cool. Okay, so I did a stitch in the gap in between the stitches and a stitch in the stitch, and you really can't tell. I mean, if you looked really closely, you'd be able to, but not worried. Now I've gone out of focus again. There we go. So I'm up to now the corner. So 2 stitches, 1, 2, chain 2, 2 stitches. On to my last side. Stitch. I just want to show you the end of this round. Ugh, now I'm getting all fumbly now. I am. I mean, as much as I say repeatedly I'm a perfectionist and everything, things like that, I'm not that much of a perfectionist. No one's going to notice that, and even I won't notice it after I don't look at it for a little while, so I do the occasional fudge, probably more often than you think. Okay, I'm coming up. Okay, that's my last side finished. I'm back at the start. So I need to do 2 stitches into the same place I started with. So there's 1, oops, 1, 2. Now I chain 1 and join with a double crochet or single crochet, depending on your terms. So there you go, that's the end of that round. The next round is just straight treble crochets or double crochets, depending where you are. And the round, I'll just show you the end of that round. I started something earlier. I cheated a bit with this one. Okay, so this is the end of the next round. So the corners in this one are, okay, the corners in this one are 1 stitch, 2 chain, 1 stitch. So at the very beginning, you would have your stitch marker would be in, oops, where's my, lost it. I'll just make a new one. Okay, so using stitch markers is a good idea until you get used to the look of where everything is. So, hook. All right. So this is Bendigo Wool Mills cotton, but it's been hooked, unravelled, wound in balls, hooked, unravelled, wound in balls, so it's getting a little bit splitty. Okay, so I've finished my last side of the straight treble round, and all I need to do is do 1 stitch in the same place as my first one. So that's where the stitch marker is. Put that in there. And then normal chain 1 and join with a stitch. Oops, it's very, very splitty. Okay, now we're up to the spike, the next spike round. I'll just show you the start in this colour and then I'll switch over to the cream so you'll be able to see it easier. It's a bit dark, I know. So the first instruction is to do a stitch over the joining stitch. So you put your hook, oh sorry, I should have moved that stitch marker. Let's flip that through there. Okay, so that's our corner. So the first stitch we do where the stitch marker is. And then it says, sorry, I have to look at my pattern. Pretty sure it says 5. Okay, so now we need to do a stitch in the next 5 stitches. So there's the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now because we're doing more than 1 spike stitch along here, you really need to be looking out at what you're doing. So I know I'm doing my next spike stitch at the base here, and that's where my next stitch is going to go afterwards. So pull up the long loop. Then it says do a DC in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm doing another spike stitch down the base of the next stitch, keeping an eye on where to do the next stitch. And next 3, 1, 2. Now I'm all tangled up. Anyway, so you get the idea. I'm going to show you with some cream so you can see it a bit easier. So I've joined it at a different corner. So first bit is we do 5 in 5 stitches after the corner. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I'm going to have to untangle that knot, sorry. That's tangled up in the one I need. Teach me for trying to be clever. Oh, can't even find the end now. Sorry, this wasn't in the plan. Completely tangled. Right, I'm cutting it. Get off. Right, okay. Yeah, sometimes, if you've got time and you're not having lots of people watching you. Okay, so I've got to go back, figure out where I am. Okay, so I've done my corner, and I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, so I need to do one more. Then I'll do my spike stitch, come back in focus, here. And the next 3. 1, oops, 2, 3, and I'll do another spike stitch. Sorry, this blue's a bit hard, isn't it? Probably shouldn't have used the blue, sorry about that. It's got a dark day like today. And another 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Then we do another spike stitch. And then we finish this side with 5 stitches, like a stitch in each of the next 5 stitches. And hopefully that's all the stitches you have left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yay! Okay, now this is actually the corner I started just before. I just lost them down on the floor. So I'm doing a stitch in the same place as my first stitch, which is here. Then I'm doing chain 1 and joining with a DC to the next stitch. Okay, and the next round, the last round, is just straight a stitch in every stitch. So I'm not going to sit here and make you watch that. That's just the red round here. We just have a stitch. Corners are DC chain 2 DC or SC chain 2 DC. Oh, sorry, SC chain 2 SC if you're in the US, and a stitch in every stitch along the side. So there you have it. That is Pam made. It's an interesting colour combo, isn't it? So hopefully I have shown you the answers to any questions. I'll just flick the camera back around so you can see me again. There we go. I hope it's useful. I have to put my glasses back on so I can actually see what you're saying. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so that's everything you need to know to make Fran. I mean Pam, hopefully. I'll do it again with hopefully with the next one. What else would I show? I was going to show you some of the other things that I've done in the background. It's called Galapagos, this one, pattern. This one, this one is grooving. And I meant to show you last time Greg, the last cow we did. This is Greg. We had one big square. Thank you. Cool, I'm glad it was good. We had one big square and we had lots of little squares that we joined together to make Greg. And this is Bendigo 8-ply cotton. You can see how lovely and drapey it is. I just love how it hangs, it falls. Thank you. I love Greg. Greg's very good. I love the name. I had so much fun with that, the names. Very simple border, because I think Greg's quite fancy, didn't need anything fancy. Thank you. So you can get the Greg pattern if you want. It's still on the blog, all free, or it's all in one spot in a PDF or ebook. So that's probably about it. Cool, yeah, yes. So I've converted another Bendigo person to cool. Santa is so much. I didn't understand that one, I'm sorry. My beautiful crochet necklace. If you watch it again, hopefully everything will work. So I recommend a stitch marker. That'll be your trick. If you get my newsletters, I would link to the lady who makes this, who's close to me. Cool. Thank you. Oriel is her name. She lives in Port Fairy. She makes this beautiful crochet jewellery. I've got a ring as well somewhere. That's great. Anyone have any other questions? Because I think that's probably about all I have to say. I'm glad my wireless held out. I thought it might drop off today. Oh, I wanted to say thank you very much for all your lovely messages after my last Periscope, because I was very nervous, and it was lovely to hear from you all. Yeah, hello, Belle, particularly. I loved your message. Thank you. Yeah, so if you have any questions, just ask away. Otherwise, just give me some hearts, and I'll sign off. I'll let you know, I'll know that you're happy. That's good. I'm glad it was. That's the aim. I want everyone to do it. Everyone can do it. No problems at all. I'm glad it was helpful. That'd be awesome. I could quit my day job. All right, I'll sign off. Thank you very much, everybody, and I hope it was helpful. I'll see you soon with the next one.